Hey everyone, my name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at some malicious compliance stories, so sit back, relax and enjoy. Don't sue! We'll let you come onto our property to fix your sewer line. The house I grew up in was built on the side of a hill. Great views, but the geography posed some challenges for the city utilities, sewage in particular. Their solution was to put all the houses on the hill in what was called a shared line. Essentially, one big pipe ran through all of our backyards, just below the houses' basements. Effluent would flow out from the houses into the shared pipe and then down the hill to the city sewer line by the bottommost house. When we moved in, we were at the highest point that it was possible to build on and still be a part of that shared sewer line. But a few years later, someone bought a lot just over the crest of the hill and linked up with ours, without being part of the planned community that had an HOA that took care of the sewer line, among other things. And in fact, they did so without the HOA's approval. And so, for the next 2 decades, my family would be the subject of near constant harassment over the state of the sewer. Their end of the line was lower than ours by just enough that it would stop flowing and clog, often backing up into their basement bathroom and shower. They'd accuse us of diverting our effluent to their line, because I guess we're some kind of plumbing wizards? Now, the reason nobody built a house on that part of the hill during the original development was that the soil was unstable, something hydrology related. Sure enough, over the years, that house would occasionally separate from the hill and slide down a couple of inches. But our neighbors had connections in the code enforcement agency, so the place never got condemned like it should be. They just had to shore it up and reconnect all the utilities. The thing is, the further down the house moved, the steeper the negative incline was from their sewer connection to our junction box, making the clogs and backups even worse. At one point, it got so bad that their sewer barely flowed. Some days, it got completely clogged. Somehow, this was our fault. They spent the next year calling us every time they tried to flush a toilet and stuff came out in their downstairs shower. They called a plumber who said they had to redo their part of the shared line, and to do it, they'd have to bust through our 2-story masonry wall so they could get a backhoe onto our property and dig out the line. Of course, we had issues with this. We said, no, you will not come onto our property and tear it up with a big piece of construction equipment. Hire human laborers or something. But instead, they hired lawyers who started slinging paper around. According to them, we were in violation of state law that specifically gave an implied easement granting a homeowner access through another's property to maintain their own. So, we hired lawyers of our own, who said that we basically had a choice. We could win the case, but pay a ton of money, or just let it happen. Either way, we'd be screwed. But they pointed out one important fact. That 20-year-old masonry wall wasn't in the greatest of shape anyway. So, a few months later, we presented them with a bill for $75,000 for the rebuilding of the wall, installation of a new set of stairs, replacement of the entire wrought iron fence that had separated the 2 properties, resodding, replacement of the ornamental plants and shrubs, and some minor repairs to our sewer, which they had balked up while relayering their pipes. I'm not a general contractor, but my guess is that they could have hired pick and shovel labor to dig out that pipe and replace it with a new one for a fraction of that price. But no, they had to have a giant caterpillar tread machine do it. They balked, but then we handed them a Xerox copy of the letter that their lawyers had sent us with pursuant to paragraph blah blah of the Common Code of blah blah blah, citing the next paragraph which stated that the person using the easement was 100% responsible for any damage that might be caused. They still balked, but my parents still put a lien on their property that stayed there to the day they tried to sell, at which point they had to pay or the purchaser's creditors wouldn't underwrite a mortgage. I think they had to pay interest too, but I'm not 100% sure about that. They said this was ongoing for multiple decades, but didn't the HOA do anything? Like, isn't that their job? Like, you pay the HOA to do the property stuff. Salad without gluten. This is just a slight malicious compliance, but it makes me smile. A few years ago, I've worked in the kitchen in a small restaurant. One particular waitress was quite annoying, special snowflake type. She often tried to tell us how to do our job, so she was rather disliked by the cooks. One day, she decided she will no longer eat gluten. There was no health reason for this, and wants gluten-free staff meal. We had no gluten-free options in the menu, but we could work something up if she'd ask nicely. However, she demanded gluten-free grease salad with chicken. One of the cooks tried to tell her that chicken is already in marinade that contains gluten, but she cut him off saying, "Just skip the parts with gluten." So we made her a salad, and as preparing the chicken is step 2, we skipped everything that follows it. She got a bowl of lettuce. I'm all for like a healthy diet, but I feel like the gluten-free thing kind of takes away from people who actually have allergies, but I don't know, you can't win them all. Want me to call my mom? Okay. This happened a long time ago at my first job. I was 17 and there was this 20-something-year-old guy who was desperate to make me quit. Don't know why, but he was. One day, he walked by while I was crouched down and kicked me. When I told my father, he drove up to the drive-thru window and threatened to mess this guy's world up. This is important. So after everyone heard about what my dad did, I had a disagreement with this one girl who I also went to school with the previous year. She got mad and started screaming "oink oink" to call me a pig, put pig toys all over my register, and would walk too close to me and say, "Call yo mama up here," because of how my dad came there. She was doing this for hours until I finally got sick of it. I threw my hat on the ground, clocked out, and called my mum to pick me up. I looked at her and said, "I called my mum. You get to do the dining room tonight." Her face fell so hard it almost came off. The person at the front register was responsible for restocking the lobby, vacuuming the carpets, scrubbing the lobby and bathroom floors, cleaning the toilets, sucking up the water with a wet vacuum, and taking out the trash. Since she demanded that I call my mum all day in front of the manager, he agreed that she will be cleaning up that night for me. I got a much needed break from her BS and got to get off early. If she had just left me alone, I would have finished my shift with no problem. Since she literally went out of her way to harass me, I gave her what she wanted. By the way, no, my mum never said a thing to her, and this girl never said anything to me again. Oh, and for a little more context about how awful this place was, the same girl in the story once stole my paycheck. She said something to the effect of "I better behave" because she had my paycheck. I was livid when the same manager told her to give it to me, but she wouldn't. I didn't get that check until hours after she got a hold of it. She happened to put the check down, and my manager picked it up and gave it to me. A few days later, the general manager asked me how she got it, and I told her that I assumed that she went into the office and got it. I didn't hand it to her. Found out later that the manager on duty handed my paycheck to her so she would pass it along to me. He was reprimanded for that. Also, more about that manager. I don't remember his name too well, but I think it was Greg. He was spineless, but he was a nice guy. He had a lot of problems with his personal life that had to do with his wife's mother. Both he and his wife were very passive people, so his mother-in-law controlled them both. He wasn't a young guy either, he was in his 40s. Greg ended up quitting a few months after this incident because an employee was mean to him. Yes, the manager quit because of a subordinate. Also for context, I was in my school's DECA program, which means I had to work the whole school year in exchange for credits. I had to keep this job, which was why I was so tolerant of certain things. Not gonna lie, that sounds like kind of a messed up workplace, like the manager being scared of the subordinates acting that way, and yeah, it just seems like a mess. Just giving him what he asked for. Nothing says entitled more than not paying attention to your bill and having some rep coddle you with a credit of nearly $200. That rep was not me, and why I got the failed survey. So this guy calls in needing more data. Standard call. Found an offer for a discounted unlimited that would have been a bit cheaper. Figured sweet, easy call. That was until he started bringing up other things regarding the bill. This turned to, "You're charging me fraudulently." By this guy's own admission, he never checks his bill. By fraud, he was referring to being charged for cloud service that's been there for a year. Reviewed account and remarks say self-service, meaning this was added by the customer agreeing to the service, not the company. On top of that, the phone with the cloud was notified the free trial would end and would start charging. This was back in January. Guy tried to use autopay as an excuse. Not checking your bill because it's auto-drafting is not a valid excuse not to look at it, nor will it ever be one. I autopay too. Told him that doesn't stop me from looking at my own bills. There was another feature on his bill that hadn't been there for a couple of months. This wasn't something that is just randomly added. You have to go out of your way to get it. More fraud. Funny how I use the same carrier and never experience these mysterious features added at random by the cell phone ghosts. Note, both of these features I was able to remove, but I wasn't going to credit for what was signed up by the customer. Guy goes into a rant about how he's been with us for X years and how it's a shame he's being scammed and that he'll switch to a different carrier, etc. Oh no, how ever will I sleep at night? I don't even work for this carrier. They are just one of many clients for the company I actually work for. Dude, check your bill sometime. It's not hard. By the end of the call, I was done. I put in RTO that morning to leave early because I was in a bike accident with a skinned up right side. I just wanted to go home and not have this man-child making me stay longer than what was my schedule for. Got him to our retention team and left. Surprise, surprise, he got coddled with a huge credit and failed my survey for not bowing down to a ridiculous request. I've helped with large credits before, but screw off if you think not checking your bill for a year is going to get much sympathy from me. My account is just as tenured, difference is I have too much pride to e-beg for my own negligence. Being in pain is definitely affecting my patience for stupid. Here is where malicious compliance comes from. The verbatim for that failed survey said he wants to cancel service. Done. What was that saying? The customer is always right? I was thinking, when's this malicious compliance gonna get in? But yeah, it's all in the last sentence, which is very sweet. Airline win. I was lining up to check for my flight to Brisbane. In front of me was an arrogant man who started yelling and swearing at the check-in lady because he had left it too late to check baggage in. She was very polite and appeared very accommodating after advising him that he was too late, which he wouldn't accept. The man eventually checked his bags in and left for the gate. I complimented the lady on how she handled the situation. She said, "Thank you for the compliment. He is going to Sydney, but his baggage is now going to Perth." And I bet she actually said, "Okay, I will check your baggage in, but it's gonna go to Perth." And he was so angry that he just didn't listen. Hey everyone, I hope you're all having a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to see more videos like it, then click on screen right now. And if you never want to miss out on a video, then hit subscribe. But I will see you all very soon.